Welcome everybody back to another session of Influencer Insights where the guest happens to be myself today. I went on the group a couple weeks ago and I asked if you guys would be alright if I kind of hijacked the podcast. You know, everybody says, well, it's your podcast, do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, this is our group and I want to make sure it feels that way, and I don't want to steal any thunder from anybody else, of course, so joining the podcast myself was maybe not something I intended to do from the beginning, but a couple of people had asked about my story and some of the things that, I've done to get where I'm at, why am I here at all, and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to make sure I took some time to properly introduce myself and talk a little bit about the reasons for why I'm here and what the purpose is of maybe this group, and if you want to join us, if you're watching or listening to this outside the group, why you'd want to come join us. So that's really the basis for it. I just wanted to say a big thank you to anybody that's joined the podcast at this point. I appreciate your time and the choice to share your time with us, give us the feedback and the value that you've all dropped, and I really, really appreciate that a lot. So I can't say thank you enough, knowing that, you just read some random guy on the internet and you're like, hey, join my podcast, and you all have done that and done it so well, so thank you very much. For anybody listening, my recommendation to you is to go say thanks to all the people that have joined the podcast and committed to our community by sharing their information. And go and share the YouTube videos that they're a part of. Go share, some of the content that you've seen that they post and that sort of thing. Go give them a follow. And I think that's a really big benefit to everybody in the community, because not only is it building that networking piece, but it's also supporting one another in the gifts that we give when we give our time, that sort of thing. So for everybody else who's been a part of the community, engaging with the post, sharing your work, asking those questions, thank you so much. When I started this group, I didn't know if there was going to be a lot of interest in what we were doing and what we've got going on, but honestly, it's been kind of a little bit heartwarming and humbling when I've heard most of you talk about how you're sharing, how you're a part of Ben's group, and I've heard that phrase a couple of times, and it means a lot to hear that, because I know you're discussing the group outside of the group, and that's a really good thing. So that being said, I did wanted to clarify this is our group, and what we do and how we grow and how we support one another is all comes down to you and me and everybody working together to make it a success. So just know that you are loved and you are valued, and in this community you have a place. And I never want you to feel that you can't reach out for help, or that you don't belong, or that this is just for a clique group or anything like that. This is for all of us to come together and to network and to grow. So you're among friends. Please continue to engage, continue to ask for help, and share your work and share the things that you're working on, because I think that's a really benefit to everybody as we continue to grow and pursue higher dreams and purposes in our lives. So that all being said, thank you. I did want to come on here, and I guess we're calling it a podcast at this point already. I mean, every week I've got people that I connect with, and they all go, "Yeah, I'd love to be on," and that sort of thing. So, so far it's been video sharing, but I think we're going to call it a podcast because it is on YouTube and people can go and find it and search it and watch that way as well. So I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I wanted to share my perspective of why I'm here, why I decided to start this, and where I'm kind of hoping and seeing and dreaming it to go as well. So back in 2015, so taking a little bit of a recap in my life, I was reevaluating some of my life decisions. I had embarked on a big project of becoming a farmer. I don't know if you caught that, or if that's a bit of a shock to you or not, but I mean, you're doing the modeling influencer thing, but you were a farmer? Yeah. It was an opportunity I felt I had in front of me, and I'm not somebody that likes to waste or miss out on opportunities that are available. So, I thought I better take it. I believe we're only given so many chances at that, so I thought I got to take advantage of what I've got in front of me. So that whole experience and going through the farming, I put about 6 crops in the ground, did a bunch of work in between all that. I'll share more if anybody cares about that at some other time. But I just wanted to summarize that point in my life by saying it was one of my hardest decisions I've ever made, ever, to make the exit that I did, and to let that part of my life go. And I've kind of often said maybe I'll go back to it, and I don't know. My calling isn't there right now, but it was definitely one of the hardest decisions I ever made. Because of that, and if you've gone through hard decisions, I know you're gonna understand this. I needed an outlet right after making that exit to kind of refocus and reprioritize, something to strive for in my life. So So that's kind of when modeling came about, which when I realized with farming, part of the issue was I couldn't see or feel the impact of the difference that I was making in the world. Because much of the benefits and that higher purpose in agriculture and farming is that happen within the space, right? So there's just the work that you do, and you believe that you're feeding the world, and you're contributing in a way that makes you feel good about yourself. And to me, that wasn't quite the fulfilling piece. And I no disrespect or disregard for anybody that does that, because that's great work. But for me, I knew that that wasn't my calling, because I wasn't getting that same level of fulfillment, especially when I looked at other people and saw them getting that fulfillment from being a farmer and feeding the world and that sort of thing. I enjoyed the work. I did. I like driving a tractor. I like fixing things, and so there was a lot of those components that were really good about it. But I knew that it wasn't fulfilling my call in life. So I kind of went to work thinking about what kind of opportunity I could take up that would give me a bit of a platform to share with others. And at this point, I was doing a little bit of Instagram stuff, sharing some inspirational posts and some personal growth development, that sort of thing, because I was going through this time. And I kind of brought all my thoughts down back to modeling. It's a really out of the norm thing for somebody in my part of the world to do. It honestly isn't really done out here very often. And that's kind of what I guess maybe made the thrill of it for me. I actually got a cousin. He's done a lot more work in the entertainment industry than I, and I kind of watched him a little bit, and I thought, hey, there's some, we got some of the same characteristics and that sort of thing. So maybe it's a good place to start. But kind of the next question when I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I better not just shoot the breeze about it. We got to make a decision here. So where do I go? How do I start? I didn't have a lot of connections, didn't have a lot of people that I knew about or aware of, and so I thought, what would be the logical first step? And so, for anybody to even believe that I was going to do this, especially in my part of the world, I'm like, I have to get an agency, because nobody's even going to believe that I'm doing this if I just start posting stuff online or whatever. So I figured that was a kind of a crucial first step, and I thought, man, if I have some success with that, there might be something to this, and I should probably, start there. So looked around locally. Unsurprisingly, there wasn't much opportunity, no surprise, but I did find some agencies in the cities of Calgary, Saskatoon, Regina, which are all 3 to 10 hours away, but I thought, hey, that's pretty close. And I put together some kind of the best photos I had of myself, a little bit of a note to why I wanted to do this and that sort of thing. And I think I sent it away to 6 or 7 applications and kind of just hope for the best to see what was going on. And I ended up getting a response from, I remember being 5, and I can't remember if I sent to 6 or 7. It doesn't matter, but I remember there's 5 agencies. One was nice enough to respond and say they just weren't interested at all, which thank you very much. But the other 4 responses were quite open and interested in having kind of a meeting with me. So I thought, better try this. So originally, the agency that I'm with now, Numa, they had a branch in Yorkton, or they had somebody, or not in Yorkton, in Regina, and they were working out of Regina. So I thought, and they were one of the ones that said, hey, we'd like to meet with you and that sort of thing. So I remember making kind of a special trip to the city to have this meeting, which is roughly a 3-hour drive. So, it was, for some people, that's a huge commitment right there. And so I kind of worked, and I'm like, okay, so I got to kind of dress appropriately. I tried to look very, model-y, if that's a word or not, but feeling on the inside that I kind of really didn't have any clue of what I was really doing there. So I remember driving in the night before and staying in a hotel, and usually I don't smoke myself, and I ended up in this oh man, got checked into this room, and they're like, you're okay with the smoking room? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I didn't even think about it. I was kind of nervous about the whole situation, and got to my room, and I slept in this room that was in the smoking section of the hotel, and never again, put it that way. So no offense to anybody that smokes, but if you don't do it, it's kind of a tough experience to get through, not gonna lie. So anyway, so I did that, and I remember showing up the next morning to the office where they were holding the interviews for the modeling agency, and I remember getting there a little bit early, probably 15-20 minutes. I didn't know, elevators are scary from a farm kid and that sort of thing, so got to make sure to get upstairs and look like I'm there and trying to make a good impression. So there was a guy at the front desk, and he was directing different people different places, and he looked unsurprising a lot like Nigel. I don't know if it's Stanley Tucci from like Devil Wears Prada, the assistant fellow. He kind of got the glasses and kind of cheery type fellow. Seemed totally fitting and kind of oddly comforting because there was some kind of said some of the things that I would picture Nigel in the movie doing so. And he just told me just watch for a couple of striking ladies to walk through the front door. They'll have their Starbucks, and whenever they're ready, they'll call you in. I'm like, okay, so that was that. And I remember sitting down looking at my phone and kind of actually in a comfortable amount of time. There's some people that came and went, and some disappointment faces and some happy faces and some, I didn't know if they were all, there was a couple of agencies, I think, working there at that time. Crisscrossing my legs, fidgeting, trying not to look nervous or anything like that, but still uncomfortable in the moment. And I remember the elevator dinged, and out came these couple of ladies, and they were carrying their lattes, and they were, ready to get to work. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning at this point, so for the farm kid in me, it was kind of funny because, day usually starts a lot earlier than that, but it was good. And you could see that they were very relaxed in the things that they were doing, and that kind of put me at ease as well. So I remember going into the meeting and feeling a little bit intimidated, but also like I was in the right place. I mean, they asked a number of questions about experience, and I had a couple of things that I could kind of draw from at that point, but not a lot. They explained the process and kind of the things to be expecting as we went along. And they finally asked, why do you want to get into modeling? So I got to share my vision, and something that I'd been kind of thinking and going back to constantly throughout, my farming careers. And it's like, I just really have a passion for inspiring people. And I wanted to do something outside the norm that would make people consider their own situation and strive for more. And I can't remember if I said it quite that eloquently, but that's what it was. And they kind of, okay. And they took some more notes in their book and that sort of thing. And they said likely get back to me within a few days or something like that, and thanked me, and the meeting ended, and away it went. I left that meeting feeling kind of a level of like relief and a little bit of regret for maybe some of the things I should have said or done or whatever they, had wanted, maybe I didn't have. But I also felt just this deep sense of peace. And I tried kind of, thinking about myself, and I kind of realized I just had no idea how this was going to go even as I went. So I just kind of left it in the hands above, as some would understand, and drove home. And I said, I just remember saying, whatever happens is good with me, but if the door closes, I'm good. And if the door opens, I'm going to do my best to honor that and to walk through that door. So I took the 3-hour drive home. I remember going back to work on the farm later that day, and I was out in the field somewhere, and the phone rang, and I was changing oil. It was greasy or something like that. And it was one of the interviews that I met with that morning. I remember them saying something down the line of, Ben, we usually take on a little more time to consider, but we talked with the rest of the team, and we really like what you said, what you've done, and kind of your ambitions, and we just love to come have you join us at the agencies. So I remember kind of half falling over because it seemed like a success in a moment that wasn't even a possibility. And so it's a long road to getting into even in further into it, but coming from where I'd started and getting to that moment, I felt like I'd really achieved something. And so since then, I've had some opportunities to do things that I never would have thought possible, even though I'm maybe not a working model, making a living at this all the time. I get to feel a level of accomplishment and success and be able to pursue opportunities that most don't get to do, especially living with where I do. We're a long ways from a lot of things. So it's been an incredible blessing to get to experience some of these things. So last spring, because of my association with the agency, I was in a fashion show in Calgary. And I remember talking with some of the young models there and some of the people that are more experienced, been around the industry for a while, and I realized there's just such a huge need in the space for mental health support. Good or bad, there's just a lot of pressures put on models to act, to be a certain way. And I personally don't ever see that changing in the industry. Not that I'm a huge expert, but if you study it in any kind of level of depth, you realize that there are certain traits in the system that are just part of it. Even if we can make progress in certain areas, there's a level of it that it's just going to be a lot of pressure. And part of it is just because there's a lot of people that want to pursue this kind of life and this kind of star power. Because of that, there's a lot of competition, and so the only way to squeeze out the juice out of an orange is to squeeze it sometimes. So sometimes you need some pressure to go make that happen. So when I realized that there's people that are struggling with these pressures and they're feeling overwhelmed. They feel alone a lot of times in feeling these pressures. I wanted to make sure that there was a place that people could come when you're putting yourself out there and you're trying to be thinking bigger than what is the norm. I wanted there to be a place where people could come and feel safe. Even for me, I'm not that professional of a model, put it that way, but I've done some photo shoots and I've done some real modeling gigs. And so people started to see, you remember the people that I mentioned that wouldn't believe me if I didn't have an agency, those people started to see me as somebody that's actually done some modeling. And there just comes with a different perspective of the way people see you and they look at you when you say you're a model or an actor or a musician. You'll see that. Part of it is just being up in front of people and making that stand, and they're a little bit in awe of the confidence that you have to do that. But your identity that is uniquely you is suddenly gone. And if you've been ever to a fashion casting, any kind of casting or show, you'll know that you're usually, number 302 or whatever it is. And you get a number and you basically lose your name and you lose your identity. You're just you for the figure that you are. And so when you're feeling those kind of pressures, there's a lot, a lot to take and a lot to be and a lot to hold as a person. So you take your identity, you give it to somebody else, and they take that and they portray that in their own ways. I mean, a lot of people don't see celebrities for really who they are, but who, as the person looking, that person can be. Sometimes it's, I want to have the glitz and the glamour, all the big spotlight and all the things that are exciting to us. Maybe it's, seeing people live a life of travel and high luxury living and, fun cars and, cool hotels and all that kind of stuff. Or sometimes it's seeing this ideal person that you're like, man, it'd be great to have a relationship with that person, and they're just the ideal person. Or being the person that can pick anybody to have a relationship with. Sometimes we look at celebrities and we put them in these boxes of those places that are, this ideal life, and that's the kind of cool thing. And that's where people get kind of stuck with looking at entertainment, fashion, and any of that stuff. It's not about the skill set or the creative that going into it. They're looking at it from identity of, this is what I could be someday. So great for those watching, and that's part of the way the business works the way it does. But if you're somebody that's in one of those positions that's being looked at as a ideal life, you're gonna struggle with that level of intensity because people give you an identity and they put you in a box that you probably weren't even asking for when you started out on this journey. So if you're working in the industry, if you don't know already, this is a business, and if you're not running it like a business, you're running a hobby. And so to me, it's kind of hard to really consider yourself somebody that is doing this for a real gig if you're not looking at it like a business, because there's marketing and sales and managing your finances and all those things as part of that. But when you get into the business, part of the thing is putting on the character that you are and how you present yourself, and it all becomes part of the show, regardless of what your intentions are or even who you are off the camera, right? Without needing to give up everything that you are and everything that you do and you stand for. Sometimes you just need a place to come decompress and to check that out. So it's really all the reason I got into understanding what it is to be a model and to start this group like this. Part of my goals in life is also that I like to see people grow and develop. And I've found a lot of people in the industry that are kind of on that same path where they're seeing something higher than the norm. So I wanted to give you a few key points today, kind of in the closing of what I'm sharing here. There's some really foundational pieces to your life that you can really build upon, and so that when you get the pressures, you get the personas put on you, you get those identity kind of thrown on you regardless of who you are. It's important to do a few different foundational pieces so you don't get lost in you along the way. So the first thing you want to do is just to look at your personal values. And it's easy to say this because that sounds really enlightened and really powerful in the way it goes, but this isn't always the polished ideal that it is when you're talking about values. It's really about having a baseline for your behaviors and choices in life. And you can't expect anyone else to tell you what you should take off, how you should say something, how you're going to behave. You need to decide all of these things ahead of time. You need to have them written down somewhere in a journal or a book, so there's a note on your phone, that regardless of the circumstances, you commit to these values in your life and you adhere to them. And I'm not saying they're maybe not going to evolve or adapt or change over time, but often that comes with a lot of reflection and assessments of what's going on and what the next goal is going to be in your life. So sit down and take some time, now that you've listened to this podcast and you listen to me and where I'm going, some of my values and inspiring people, right? Look at your own life and the values that you portray to the world, and get those firmed up so that you know when you go to create something where the lines are and what your purpose and your goal and directive in creating that piece of content is. So that's first. Next thought is to be goal orientated. So I mentioned goals there a lot. As humans, it is our basic programming to be future focused all the time. We're always thinking about, I achieve this, or I get this financial state, or I can work with this photographer, or I can go to this location in the world, or whatever it is. And you've heard that on the podcast, you've been listening before. Goals are important to set and targets to hit, because once you achieve a goal, the interesting thing is you wait and you hope and you pursue this goal and you write it down, you're visualizing and all the things, and you get there and you accomplish it and you celebrate, and that's kind of and a new goal is all of a sudden revealed to you. So there's always this level of progression that's going to happen in your life, and so it's important to set those goals ahead of time. Set some big goals so you can hit them, so you can knock them off. Sometimes it's maybe something simple to get started with, just to get your kind of self going and rolling and understanding how this works. And it might be, hey, I'm just going to book 4 development shoots in the next 2 months. Maybe that's a really big thing for you, where you're working or you're doing school. So hitting those development shoots would be a really big benefit and a good goal to hit, right? And you'll be surprised, even if you write it down in your book and you close your journal and you don't look at it for a couple of months, you'll be surprised how much that comes back to you and how much it's going to keep you moving forward. Because it'll almost be like you forget the moment, forget the goal, forget the thing that you wrote down, and then there's this opportunity that surprisingly arises. And because your mind had the goal set already, your subconscious knew that was happening, you've automatically start booking shoots, and you've got 4 shoots done within 3 weeks, and you do that without even trying. Now, it's not always quite that simple, but it's really cool how it works, and time is progressing regardless of whether we wanted to or not. So if you set these goals and you have these targets and opportunities in place ready, you're going to start to see them walk themselves out. And there's something that kind of like an investment. You put the time into finding the goal, and then you just keep taking steps forward. And you're going to watch and see how the opportunities start to flow and to fall into place in your life. So thirdly, I want to encourage all of you to be outwardly focused. I know when we think of mental health in our group, a lot of it really is taking care of our needs first. Like going on the airplane, putting the oxygen mask on yourself before helping others, right? If you can't breathe, you can't help anybody else. So that's really, really important. But once you've done that, especially in the framework of being, somebody that's in front of people as a star, as a celebrity, as an influencer, if you want to be successful as a model, an actor, musician, photographer, anything that's puts you in any of that realm, you need to project outwards and give back. My personal finding happens to now be a belief, is that the reason we take so much time for ourselves to build strength, confidence, courage, and reserve energy is so that we can in turn give that back to the people who support and uplift us. Even though it's not, the objective to give to get, because if you're going to do that, you're going to end up with bad vibes anyway. But it's something that happens automatically, because when you find your ways to give best to your audience, you focus on the people that want to see your content, you create more of the things that they share. It comes back to you in ways that they encourage their friends to follow you, they share stuff, and all of a sudden you get more traction towards yourself. And it brings you to the place where you become the success you want to be. But that's remembering to be outwardly focused, not inwardly focused. And so once you've done the oxygen mask and you've put that on yourself and you're working through the mental health stuff, and if you need help with that, there's lots of people to do that with you. The next step is to take that and turn that into outwardly focused, where everything that I am, that I built, the strength of, having strong mental mindset, that's when I give back to the people that support me and share my content and help me along the journey as well, right? And those things just keep coming back. Put out, you'll get back. Put out, get back, and it'll just keep coming that way too. So set some values. Once you get off this podcast, once you stop listening to me talk, get off the podcast and set some values, draw some goals up that align with those values, and take some time to care for yourself so that in turn you can give back to others. Looking back on my former career as a farmer, I realized that maybe I wasn't making the impact that I had hoped. And that feeling has certainly shifted a lot because the community that I'm pouring into now, I feel we're having a greater impact together. We're getting to be supportive in growth and pursuing of higher and bigger things. And personally, I do hope to get to expand my modeling career some. I'm not finished with it by a long shot, but I'm really enjoying the chance to get back to the industry by hosting this community and having you join me for this podcast episode or share in the group. All of those things are things that I'm really excited about, the things that we're creating together and building this connection. So if you have any interest in collaborating for a shoot, or if you want to work together somewhere, I'd love to connect with you in that way. So please do. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at benq.model. That's my modeling page. You can send me a DM if you're in the group, or leave a comment if you're seeing this video from somewhere else. I'd love the opportunity to work with you on a creative basis. That's a lot of things that excite me a lot. So for a bigger announcement for this community, for those that have made it this far through the podcast, the next step is to get it uploaded to platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music and that sort of thing. So there will be more opportunities to listen to all of the great guests that we've had on the show, and easier place to share it. I think for a lot of people, that's kind of where the challenge always comes. How do you share, Facebook videos or whatever? So if you've made it this far and there's comments below whatever video you're watching, I'd just like you to leave podcast in there. And that way I know that you're excited about this coming too, and I look forward to building and growing that and sharing that with you. So also, if you want to join the podcast, shoot me a message as well. We're happy. We'll make a schedule, pick some time, and it's very non-invasive and hopefully a little bit of fun as we get people sharing their journey. So looking forward to doing this maybe once in a while. You guys let me know whether you like my story or not, or if you want to hear more of it. But again, it's been a journey to get to the place that I am, and I'm glad to be sharing this journey with you. So glad to take some time and share my own story. Thank you for tuning in. Look forward to chatting all and seeing you guys in the group and seeing what you guys create next. So you got this. Take care.